نريد لبنان ملتقى وفاق عربي.
Good afternoon. You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's top stories. Prime Minister-designate Saad Hariri is in Babda as we speak to discuss the ministerial portfolios and resume cabinet formation with President Michel Aoun. Lebanon's stormy weather blocks mountain areas, leaving motorists stranded across the country as air traffic is disrupted at Beirut's airport. And Syria's army resumes shelling the last rebel-held parts of Aleppo, according to a monitor, ending hours of calm after a deal to evacuate civilians and rebels was announced. Lebanon could have a new government as earlier as this evening, according to Prime Minister-designate Saad Hariri, who is in the Babda Palace as we speak, discussing the ministerial portfolios with President Michel Aoun. It has been said that after major obstacles were over the distribution of key ministerial portfolios, they have been eliminated, sources close to the cabinet formation process are saying. A new government could be announced either tomorrow, as efforts have been intensified to sort out the few remaining points and minor details over the distribution of key portfolios. Speaker Nabih Berri also sounded optimistic earlier this morning about the cabinet formation. However, he did question the reasons for the delay. He was quoted as saying, "Since 3 p.m. on Monday, I can confirm there is no longer anything to justify a delay in issuing the cabinet lineup decree because each side has taken more than its share of sovereign and public service portfolios." U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs Ann Patterson relayed a message to President Michel Aoun from U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, in which he expressed Washington's readiness to maintain its support for Lebanon to enable it to face the expected challenges. Patterson also told Aoun that her country appreciates Lebanon's efforts in hosting the Syrian refugees, stressing that it is necessary to continue assisting Lebanon as it struggles to cope with the refugee crisis. Moreover, the U.S. official renewed Washington's readiness to meet the needs of the Lebanese army while hailing its role in combating terrorism and preserving the country's stability. Lebanon's stormy weather is blocking mountain areas, leaving motorists stranded across the country as air traffic was disrupted as well at Beirut's airport. A Fly Dubai airplane carrying 164 passengers was unable to land at the Beirut Safi Hariri International Airport and was instead diverted to Cyprus. Meanwhile, an Iraqi Airways plane carrying 99 passengers en route to Beirut from Baghdad was struck by lightning in Lebanese airspace but managed to land safely. The capital, Beirut, witnessed heavy traffic with several roads flooded with rainwater earlier this morning. A lake formed on the Dawda Road north of Beirut due to the heavy rainfall, as well as Public Works Ministry workers sought to open clogged drains. In the northern district of Akkad, snowfall reached altitudes of 1,800 meters, with several roads closed due to black ice. Syria's army resumed shelling the last rebel-held parts of Aleppo, according to a monitor, ending hours of calm after a deal to evacuate civilians and rebels was announced. This morning, regime forces fired at least 14 shells onto the area held by the rebels for the first time since Tuesday, according to Rami Abdurrahman, the director of the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The renewed fighting came as the evacuation of thousands of civilians and rebel fighters from East Aleppo failed to begin as scheduled at dawn. Rebels and a source close to the regime said it had been put on hold. The rebels now control only a tiny part of the eastern sector of the city, which they seized in 2012. A blistering offensive launched in mid-November has seen pro-government forces retake more than 90%. Coming up next, more world headlines when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching the 1620 o'clock news here on Future Television. Saudi Arabia's King Salman has vowed to prevent other nations from intervening in neighboring Yemen, where it has been at war with Iranian-backed rebels since March 2015. The televised speech at the start of a meeting of his top advisory council included no major policy changes despite regional upheaval and the economic challenge posed by low oil prices. Salman said Saudi Arabia remains committed to diversifying its economy based on the Vision 2030 roadmap, which includes slashing public spending, reducing reliance on oil revenue, and boosting employment in the private sector. Saudi Arabia views Iran as its main regional rival, and the two support opposite sides in the wars in Yemen and in Syria. Iran ordered its scientists to start developing systems for nuclear-powered marine vessels in response to what it calls a U.S. violation of its landmark 2015 atomic deal with world powers. Now, nuclear experts say that President Hassan Rouhani's move, if carried out, would probably require Iran to enrich uranium to a fissile purity above the maximum level set in the deal to allay fears of Tehran building an atomic bomb.
The announcement from the Iranians today does not run counter to the international agreement to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. We continue to be able to watch closely Iran's nuclear program, starting in the uranium mills and throughout the nuclear supply chain. That is an unprecedented insight into any country's nuclear program and allows us to verify their ongoing compliance with that program. And our expectation is that as they undertake these kinds of research and development efforts, that they will do so consistent with their international obligations. We have the ability, because of the cooperation with the Iranians under the agreement, to verify their ongoing compliance with the agreement.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is ready to meet U.S. President-elect Donald Trump at any moment, the Russian leader said in an interview. Putin said he had no problems meeting Trump at any time, but thought it would be better if the president-elect first formed his administration. He added the Kremlin was in favor of normalizing relations with the United States. It is well known, he was quoted as saying, that the president-elect of the United States is publicly in favor of a normalization of Russian-U.S. relations. We cannot not support this. We are, of course, in his favor. And I have already said publicly, we understand that this won't be an easy task, bearing in mind the degree of degradation in current Russian-American relations. But we are ready to fulfill our part. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump formally announced Rick Perry, a former Texas governor and Trump's one-time presidential rival, as his choice to lead the U.S. Department of Energy. If the nomination is confirmed by the U.S. Senate, the move would put Perry in charge of a federal department that he had proposed eliminating during his bid for the 2012 Republican presidential nomination. In a statement from Trump's transition team, the president-elect cited Perry's tenure leading Texas, a leading oil-producing state, and the nation's second most populous one from 2000 until 2015. Perry, who ran unsuccessfully for the presidency in 2012 and 2016, in the statement welcomed the planned nomination to serve under Trump. And rap star, I should say, Kanye West met with Republican President-elect Donald Trump to discuss what he said were multicultural issues, including bullying, education, and violence. West's meeting at Trump Tower sent social media into a frenzy and fueled speculation about a possible performance at Trump's inauguration or an informal administration role for the rapper. But West, 39 years old, said on Twitter that he wanted to meet Trump to discuss multicultural issues. The 15-minute meeting was the first major outing by West since he was released on November 30th after a week in Los Angeles at a psychiatric hospital with an unexplained condition. It quickly became the top trending topic on Twitter. West, looking solemn and sporting a new blonde hairdo, was without his wife, and he made headlines in November when he was booed at a concert for declaring his support for Trump, although he said he had not voted in the November 8 presidential elections. So if you're tuning in to what's coming up in theaters near you, Rogue One is set to top the box office. Like The Force Awakens, which was released last year, the launch of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, is surrounded in secrecy, with fans only knowing the premise is based on the opening text crawl in the original Star Wars film, A New Hope. For some of the actors, the casting process was also surrounded in mystery, Alan Tudyk, who plays the droid K2SO, stated, "You don't read the script." And Riz Ahmad, who also played Bodhi Roque, a pilot who defects from the Empire to the Rebellion, explained it was unclear to him what kind of role he would play. Here's a look.
There's a 26% chance of failure. How much further? I don't know, I'm not sure. I never really come this way. We're close. We're close, I know that.
Well, now there's a 35% chance of failure.
I don't want to know. Thank you.
I understand.
Now! Put it down now!
The wind!
If you keep going, you'll be right over the shuttle depot! What's it?
It was unclear to me what kind of role Bodhi would play. At that point, actually, the character's name wasn't even Bodhi, it was something else.
You don't read a script. You
don't see a script. That's it. So it's a good feeling, but you're kind of like, I don't know how much I'm going to get to do, and if I'll make the cut even. But it's good to be a part of it. It's only now that you sit back and you watch the whole thing, and you're like, wow, we're really in that movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, you know.
With me, it was the opposite. I knew too much, you know. I was like, what am I gonna do with all this information? I sat down with Gareth for what I thought it was just gonna be a regular, like a generic meeting, just a hi, nice to meet you, goodbye. And he sat down with me and was like very worried about the waiters and everyone, and he started whispering, and he told me the whole story, and he kept telling me like, and then this guy does this, and then this guy does that, and I was like, is he suggesting he wants me to play the guy?
I look at the film from a different perspective because I don't just act. I'm also a action director for many years. So for me, looking at Star Wars and the biggest IP of the film industry, I mean, it's just there was a lot of things. There was a lot to take in. A lot of appreciation and respect for every single one to put this film together.
It's quite a ride. It's fantastic. It's different than the other movies.
It's you know what? Honestly, I know we're biased, and maybe we shouldn't say too much, but I feel so proud of the film.
You've said too much.
I feel it's bold. It's different to the other Star Wars movies. It sets out its own different aesthetic and energy, and I think people will really respond to it.
You're rebels, aren't you?
Save the rebellion! Save the dream!
Rogue One, a Star Wars story, is in theaters tomorrow. This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. Prime Minister-designate Saad Hariri is in Babda Palace as we speak, discussing the ministerial portfolios and the cabinet formation with President Michel Aoun. Lebanon's stormy weather blocks mountain areas, leaving motorists stranded across the country and disrupting the traffic at Beirut's airport. And Syria's army resumes shelling the last rebel-held parts of Aleppo, according to a monitor, ending hours of calm after a deal to evacuate civilians and rebels. Those are your Wednesday headlines live on Future Television. I'm Yumna Nofa signing off. Have a good one.
نريد لبنان ملتقى وفاق عربي